as the moderator for today's panel. So panelists, please go ahead and introduce yourself. And after your, I guess while you are introducing yourself, I would like you guys to answer the question, what does it mean to be civically engaged in college? All right. So Ms. Toiya Smith, please go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Toiya Smith. I'm a graduating senior, majoring in urban studies and public policy from Fort Worth, Texas. And to be civically engaged, I wish I had more time to think about it, but Kaylan so graciously passed it to me first. For me personally, when I think about what it means to be civically engaged, it's a very, I automatically am thinking politics. I'm always engaged in a number of campaigns, whether they're partisan or nonpartisan. And I just think it's important to be a part of the politics that really impact you. It's a love I got whenever I came to New Orleans, and just seeing like how close knit, like the local community is just so much smaller here. So people can get closer to I mean, 6 degrees of separation, but it's like 3 degrees in New Orleans, because you meet one person and you basically know the whole governor's cabinet. So to me, that's what it means, is being engaged locally in the ways that impact you in your community. And I'll pass it off to Mr. Traelon Rodgers.
Well, would I be a gentleman if I didn't let Jamya go? I don't think so. Ms. Robinson?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Traylon. That was great. I'm also an urban studies and public policy major, senior. I'm also a ambassador of the Andrew Goodman Foundation, a national civic engagement organization based in New Jersey, as well as the president of the Blue Voter Society and SGA's director of civic engagement. Civic engagement, to me, just starting from the term civic, is engaging in a process for the betterment of your people, which can take the form of participating in like a local election campaign, registering people to vote, as well as getting involved in volunteering for like nonprofit organizations in your community and movements and things that are working actively, not just during election season, not just when things are bad, not just during a pandemic, but all the time, because they want to see your people thrive. They want to see their placement in life improve. So civic engagement is all those things to me. It's just for the betterment of the people.
Yeah. So my name is Traelon. I'm from Dallas, Texas. Urban Studies and Public Policy major, a third-year student. Currently serving as SGA president. And for me, I think in college, I think we might be not in the majority, but I think for the average college student, civic engagement is where in colleges is where you're learning the roots and of grassroots, where you're being a grassroots organizer, where you're learning how to actually do those things, whether it be registering people to vote or canvassing or knocking on people's doors, or even just hosting, just showing up to something that someone on campus has hosted as it relates to what it means to be actively involved in your community. I think the simplest form of civic engagement that a college student can do, or average age college student, is vote. I mean, that's the bare minimum. And when you vote, a number of doors open up, such as jury service and several other things. Several other things open up when you register to vote, and then when you actually vote, you can make a world of difference based off your one vote. So I think that that's what college students um, do, the grassroots level. And I think that there are some who are anomalies who do more than grassroots. But I think for those of us who are on this call, I think we enjoy most of our work on the grassroots level.
Yes, thank you guys. I know for myself, I agree with you, Traylon. Grassroots, like I'm very heavy into helping out with nonprofits, and this year we saw that Diller students turned out to go vote, and so I just want to say thank you. It's because of the student leaders. It's because of just all the students on campus. They knew that this year was a time like we needed to create a change, and we went ahead and create that change. Now look at our president, regardless of your views or your political, political views or not, we have a new president. We have HBCUs at the forefront. Like, we are really doing it. And I just tweeted something yesterday, and I said, I am going to be an HBCU graduate in a few months. Like, that's something to brag about. Like, we're at an HBCU before it was even popular to go to an HBCU, right? But it's just, yeah. So that's a whole nother conversation, but thank you guys. So to pay homage to Martin Luther King Jr., I do have a quote, and I would like to read that quote for you guys real quick. So yeah, let me get the quote up. And then I would like to know, you guys, after I read the quote, I would like to know you guys like reflection on it. What does the quote mean to you? All right. Okay. We must face the tragic fact that we are far from the promised land in the struggle for a desegregated society. History has proven that social systems and the guardians of the status quo are always on hand with their oxygen tents to keep the old order alive. And that was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, starting with, let's say, Traelon. I would like to know, oh, and thank you for going ahead and thank you for putting that quote there. I would like to know, what does this quote mean to you?
So I think that what Dr. King is talking about is people like Senator Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz, who are the gatekeepers of the new Jim Crow era, who are the gatekeepers of the Proud Boys and white supremacists in the 21st century, and even Donald Trump. And what Dr. King is saying, that time has shown us that the systems and the guardians of the status quo are always on hand. So they're always going to be there. And what he's saying, the oxygen tank, he's referring to somebody, I guess in current times, we can be referring to someone with who's maybe struggling with COVID-19, which we know that affects the Black community. But what he's talking about is elder people who've been fighting this fight forever, refuse to give up or to change their views, because the status quo is something that they want to keep around. And I think what we have here is a new generation, thanks to COVID 45, that is raising up white supremacists and Proud Boys across the nation. And like he's saying, this man is well into his 70s, and he's had COVID and everything else. He's standing literally on the sidelines with his oxygen tank, not walking with them or not pushing or not going inside the Capitol with them, but telling the younger people, go inside, while he watches and coaches on the sideline. So I'm sure this quote was at least over 50 years old. So 50 years ago, they're dealing with the same stuff that we're dealing with currently. So I think that's what it means, that we're far from where we have to be. And the reason we're far from where we have to be is because we have bad characters like Cruz, Hawley, and Trump that are going to continue to push for these racist policies and discriminatory practices to continue in our society. And as long as they have breath, or some even artificial breath, then they will continue.
Thank you. That was really powerful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to keep it going with who's next on the screen. Miss Jamya Robinson.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. This quote essentially means that there are people invested in the downfall of minorities, specifically Black people, whether that be from a financial standpoint or from like a spiritual level. Like, people are actively invested in ensuring that we don't succeed. And it's really important. And I feel as though Dr. King recognized this as well, the fact that we're far from where we need to be. We're far from the promised land. And despite there being a lot of discussion and debate on which tactic is best, nonviolent or violent, militarized or like intellectual, it's still a fact that things are changing. Like the cycle continues because people are actively aware of the tactics that we're using, and they're also strongly investing, strongly strongly making sure that they're able to adapt their strategies of oppression in order to continue to oppress us. So recognizing the fact that people are running around here with slave money, they're running around here with indigenous land, like that they own and things like that, the money of exploited people. And if you give those people the tools that they need to succeed and the tools in order to determine whether or not they want to continue to be underneath you, then you'll no longer have that power in this country, and thus those people won't have to rely on you. So that's what I think that quote means, is that it continues to be a cycle of poverty. It continues to be a cycle of oppression and discrimination in this society.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamya. Go ahead, Ms. Toya Smith.
Thanks, Ms. Tanner. Um, I really echo everything that everybody has already said. There are people who are certainly invested in, not even people, there are ideologies, groups, there's a whole culture that's invested in seeing us stay at the bottom. And we all took Dr. Bayham's class, and I often think about the times that we sit and really reflect on the speeches, Dr. King's speeches, particularly Where Do We Go From Here? That speech was given in like 1967 in Atlanta, and a lot of the same like injustices, as you all said, were being talked about then too. And I think that King puts a light on the fact that the issue is largely economical. It's where we as Black people are investing our dollars. Even the entire pandemic, I feel like a lot of this is coming down to dollars and cents. Places are staying open at the sake of capitalism, for the sake of just being able to have business, as opposed to saving lives. And a quote from that speech that I want to lift up is, "Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love." And I think that moving forward, where we could go from here is operating with a mindset that has radical love and not just money and things at the forefront.
Thank you so much. So that actually brings me into my next question. Where do we go? Where do we go from here, right? So I know Miss Robinson, literally moments before you hopped on and showed your face, you were at a march. So can you please tell us all about your march and how you are moving forward?
Yes, so the march was organized by the New Orleans People's Assembly and Take 'em Down NOLA. And it was a march not only to celebrate the work and the ideologies of Dr. Martin Luther King, but also the work, the grassroots organizing that's happening in New Orleans and Louisiana and around the nation, specifically around increasing the living wage, fighting for a fully funded relocation package for the residents of Gordon Plaza, which for people that don't know is a neighborhood that was built on a former landfill that has a high rate of cancer, that was intentionally built there by the city of New Orleans, despite them knowing that it was a hazardous site. It was a hazardous site. So those are some of the things that this organization has been working on. And we marched from City Hall down Dr. King Street, Dr. Martin Luther King Street. And we engaged in solidarity, we engaged in fellowship, and also just grounding ourselves in the fact that there's a lot that we don't know. There's a lot that we need to know. There's a lot of things that we need to unlearn when it comes to understanding a lot of our leaders, a lot of our ancestors, essentially. So I'm really happy to be on this panel. Thank you so much, because just providing me with this platform to, teach and also to learn from everyone on the panel is a great opportunity for me.
Thank you so much. Can you please go ahead and put in the chat to everyone the organization, and maybe we can follow the organization and see what we can do as Dillard students to help the organization out.
Yes, I will. Also, they'll be having another march on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. If you all want to attend, it will be at City Hall. They're very great. I appreciate it.
Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. You know, Dillard students love to be civically engaged. So that same question stands for you, Miss Smith, and you, Mr. Rodgers. What are you doing? Like, where do we go from here? What are you actively doing in your communities, right? I know when you guys go back home, you guys are, you know, big on politics, local politics. I know, Toiya, you're heavily involved in New Orleans politics. Crazy. You're not even from here, but you have done a great job connecting. It's like you're from here. You've done a great job connecting with so many different people these past 4 years. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Mr. Rodgers first, and then Toiya, you can go ahead and talk about your local city politics that you do.
Yeah, so one of my favorite quotes by Frederick Douglass is that it's easier to build stronger children than it is to repair broken men. So what it means is to me is that we've got to invest in the future of our nation. Um, and as the youth, I mean we're the next generation right above the grade school and high school students. We're that next generation. It's our responsibility to make sure that they get all the tools necessary to combat what we've been fighting forever. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And so we've got to make sure that there uh, are no discriminatory policies in education. We got to first eliminate the school to prison pipeline. And this is a personal thing that stand behind strongly. I think the privatization of public schools has been our biggest enemy when it comes to educating our youth and specifically people of color. So when I'm home, I'm always fighting for policies and advocating for policies that are going to enhance people of color, which whether that means getting rid of a juvenile curfew in the city of Dallas because it disproportionately targets Black and Brown students, or if it means that we have to get rid of discriminatory policies from K through second grade because before you get to when you get to the third grade, they already determine how many prisons they're going to make based off of your standardized testing. These are things that we need to focus on to get. I mean, the old people are going to be the old people regardless. We can't change their mindset. All we can do is tell them the way things are going to go. They have to adapt and adjust. And if they don't, it'll still happen. We have to leave them behind. But what we have to do is to build strong children so that we don't have to worry about when they're old trying to repair broken men. And I mean, obviously he says men, but he's talking about everybody. We've got to invest into our future and to the people that are going to be directly into the economy 40, 50 years from now. Uh, it's not going to be like this when they're old. I mean, when we're old. So we've got to go start at the root, address the issues, not the symptoms of the issue, not the symptoms of the issue, and hopefully we can get to a better solution. And we won't have to worry about old people encouraging people to do stuff on the sidelines because they've already developed a thinking process for themselves that requires them to think deeper than just social constructs or a made up system based off of somebody's skin color or even a fallacy that or misinterpretation from the Bible about dark skins. I mean, it's just something that we've got to get past. And the way we get past it is educating the people and making sure that they get access to everything that they need to be successful.
Thank you so much, Congressman Rodgers. I mean, I mean, I learned. I've worked with you for the past 3 years, but every single time I hear you talk, I learn something new. So thank you so much. That's what the Dillard community is about, like just learning, listening, and learning from one another. Ms. Smith.
So there's this book. It's called The Education of Blacks in the South. That book is the truth, okay? And I haven't finished it yet. I'm on chapter 4. But it's teaching me so much about our education system. And similar to Mr. Rodgers, I'm very passionate about education, and I kind of feel like it's the root of a lot of our injustices that we see in society. Now I bring up the book because public education was actually started by us. It was started by freedmen. In the South, the slaves, the difference between being a slave and not being a slave was your ability or access to be educated, how literate you were. So there was slaves were doing their like fighting tooth and nail to get education privately, learn how to read and write. And then once we actually became free, had the most public schools all across the South. People from the North, white men tried to come down, and even ones that were well-intentioned tried to help and put funds behind it. But we said, no, we don't want any of y'all's colonialism mixed in the education that we got. We largely taught all of our Black kids. And then even from public education to Sabbath schools too. So Sunday schools, that's not a white people thing. We started that. Kids who couldn't go to school during the week because for some reason they needed to stay home with siblings or whatever, got education during Sunday school. It wasn't just Bible study. So whenever you talk about privatizing public education, and even just like the way that public education is they're trying to put a tag on it now, that's us, that's our stuff. That white people were not as concerned about educating their kids until they saw the passion that all of these freed men in the South had behind educating. There were millions of Black people in the South who were getting educated. So that's us, and I think when you talk about where do we go from here, there has to be a constant learning and unlearning because there's so much that's been hidden from us. I'm only in chapter 4 of the book and I'm looking in the world like, wow, like this is not what I thought it was. And that's just the case. I mean, most of the things that we know have been whitewashed. There are tendencies like, perfectionism, sense of urgency. Those are all tenets of white supremacy culture that, we don't like actively talk about or acknowledge. And it's a lot of learning and unlearning. So I think that's kind of the first personal responsibility we have, is to unpack that. Personally, I'm working on the congressional campaign for District 2. Cedric Richmond, as I hope y'all are familiar with, has been invited to be a part of Biden's executive cabinet, and the seat is now up for grabs. And so there's a gentleman named Gary Chambers out of Baton Rouge who is campaigning to take the seat. And so I've been working on the campaign, and it's really, that's been kind of, that's kind of like where I'm putting a lot of my energy, focus, and resources into. Not because it's political, but because the campaign is really revolutionary minded and justice oriented. And in a time like this, where we see people like AOC get elected to Congress, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, like there's just so many, the squad is growing, And so when I think about all the change that can happen on the Hill, it makes me all the more passionate to be able to stand behind somebody who is going to really fight for the benefits of the people of Louisiana. Okay, and these career politicians are not doing that. So I digress, but.
Thank you, Senator Smith. I'm telling you guys, Mr. Rodgers, Ms. Smith, Ms. Jamya, after graduation, I still need to be cool with y'all, because if I need a job, I know I can go to one of you guys. But no, I've always had a dream of becoming the president. But all I'm saying is all of us are going to be up there, and I'm super excited to continue to grow with each one of you guys in your activism, whether it's locally or whether it's on a national level. You guys have been doing amazing work since freshman year. Traelon's only been here for 3 years. He loves to say third year student. You should be proud, third year student. You've been doing a lot. 2-term SGA president. You've been doing a lot. All right. Let me give you your kudos. You'll never get them from me again, but I'll give them to you today. but I would like to say okay. I know you guys are very woke, right? Not that fake type of woke, but you guys are woke. You know what happened. It was all in the news. There was probably little protests, riots in each one of you guys' cities. I want to know you guys' reaction, how you guys feel about the rioters at the Capitol. Really. I woke up and I was like, what is this? What is this civil war going on? Like, what's really going on? So I want to know what you guys feel. Let's dig deep. I want these insightful responses. So whoever wants to start first, go ahead.
All right, I'll go first. So I'm a nerd. Like I when I'm home, I always watch either C-SPAN or CNN. So I got C-SPAN on the TV, and I mean CNN on the TV, C-SPAN on my iPad because I'm walking around with my iPad just listening to my headphones. And Senator Lankford from Oklahoma is speaking, objecting to Arizona's electoral college votes. And I'm like, first of all, I thought it was crazy. And then all of a sudden, Senator Grassley gets up and says, we'll go to recess in the middle of his statements. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, I never seen anything like that before. And so then I turned my head to CNN, and there was a bunch of white people outside outside of the Capitol. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is happening on live TV. And the first thing that comes to my head is like, had this been us, right? Everybody's like, if this was black, like that's all I'm saying. If this was black people, we would have been, but I mean, it's crazy because we're witnessing so much history in our time. And the things that were being said at the time that this happened were crazy. Senator Cruz was talking about how they should form some committee of 10 people to see if they should validate the election results. I mean, this is stuff that hasn't happened since pre the Reconstruction era. So what we're listening to on live television on C-SPAN, what I'm listening to is senators a senator from my state of Texas talk about how we should go to times pre-segregation, pre-Reconstruction, when America was great, right? Because I'm like, when was America ever great? Like, where are we saying we're going back to? So they finally answered that question. They want to go back to 1812, or they want to go back to pre-1864. So I'm sitting here digesting all of this, and I'm thankful that the members of Congress are safe, but I'm like, this was some of y'all get like this. Y'all needed this. Y'all needed to see what type of man that Donald Trump is. Like we've been saying it forever. Al Green was like one of the first, Congressman Al Green was like one of the first people to say he needs to be impeached, but everybody's like, oh no, we don't see anything. Now all of a sudden everybody's eyes are open and they want to resign so they can save whatever's left of their career. I mean, the whole thing is just crazy. There's no doubt that he needs to be impeached. There's no doubt that he needs to be in prison. There's no doubt in my mind that he needs to be dealt with in regards to not just what happened on January 6th, but what has happened from January of 2017 all the way to January of 2021. He's a lunatic, and what he did on the Capitol was nothing different from what he's always done. He told us he was going to do it. He did what he said he's going to do. In some ways, we should respect him for being honest and for keeping his word. But we should be looking at the other people who are supposed to be holding him accountable. There are a lot of people who are stuck to doing business as usual, and career politicians who want to, make gentlemen's agreements or go by Robert's rules. What he's trying to say to us is, if you don't pay attention, the revolution is coming, whether you're ready or whether you're not ready. And so what we need to do from this point on is get our troops ready. Not saying we need to go get Black Panthers, but what we need to do is mobilize, activate, organize, go to the polls, change some stuff so that we can get what we need when we need it and how we need it ASAP.
ASAP. All right. All right. President Rodgers. Okay. Who's next?
I'll go. I was also watching it like actively. It was quite the experience to see, not only see it happen, but see the way the language changed. Because at first it was protesters, then they shifted to rioters, then it's an insurrection. Then everyone's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. Even fellow Republicans that I thought was so interesting because y'all were at the rally. The rally happened not too far. He gave clear directions like, go to Pennsylvania Avenue and walk down the street, and I'll see y'all at Capitol Hill. So I don't really understand why I was surprised. And just also hearing the terms unprecedented and how they were unaware that this type of issue was going to happen was extremely amazing to me, considering that during the summer, they were able to find a Black Lives Matter protester from her Etsy package. From her Etsy package, yet you didn't know that this was happening. So there was clearly a disconnect in the way that our government is surveying and analyzing and prioritizing right-wing extremist organizations. I will say that, especially when it comes to white supremacy. So seeing that happen also clicked in my mind that this country is no longer a democracy, because when it came to this type of thing happening, no one was able to control them. The Capitol Police was in call to action, and then they didn't even have the numbers to take control of it. DC police couldn't come on federal property without permission from someone in the federal government. So when you take that into consideration, who is controlling our country, and what does a patriot look like? Because they came there with those flags, yet they came on what is considered, or what has been considered, this sacred land, the pinnacle of our nation, of our traditions, and everything that we stand for. Yet you busted the windows, you climbed on the walls. Who, it was quite the scene. And I think that it is a reflection of our country. It's a reflection of the way that we view white supremacy, the way that we are essentially a white supremacist Christian nation, in which we have always been. And then seeing these Republicans meet once again to vote on the electoral results and see them like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Yet they were live tweeting when this was happening. Like, Nancy Pelosi is walking out. We're calling recess. Like, seeing all those things, and then also take into consideration that I don't want to call them traitors, because who are they betraying? But there are people within our Congress, there are people within the White House, within our federal government as a whole, that are actively attempting to get people who do not support Donald Trump killed. Because that's what they were going to do if they had allowed for the Congress to stay there. They were going to kill them. Ayanna Pressley, they had removed her panic button. People were coming in there in military gear and zip ties. They were not coming there to chat. They were not coming there to chat at all. So to see that happen really brought to my attention that something is strongly wrong with this nation. Their propaganda has, I feel like it's reached us, but hasn't been reaching the right people, especially the way that we interpret it. And then going back to the way that they dealt with the protesters in comparison to Black Lives Matter protests, even in the past, I remember I went to a protest to fight against gun violence and police reform in Chicago a few years ago. They had police buses the size of school buses waiting for us. We hadn't even started the march yet. So to see them allow for these people to walk past curfew started at 6, those people were not going until 8 o'clock, walk so calmly, I realized that one, police do have discretion. They know when they can and cannot attack, especially when it comes to the color of their skin. Because at one point, if you were walking around in Chicago past curfew, you were instantly getting arrested. I don't care if you were just walking to go get your groceries. And then during those same protests, they stopped the buses, they closed they like lifted the bridges, they closed the expressways, all those things. If you were at the protest, you were trapped. You couldn't go anywhere. But after that insurrection, after that riot, after that attempted coup, people were in the lobby like they were at a conference. Like that was completely legal. And I find that very humorous. I do. I don't know what I want to see, but this is our nation. This is the nation that was created. So who knows?
You got me you got me thinking about a lot, Miss Robinson. Like I'm really scared. And for a while I was like, I'm scared to go to other countries. I'm not proud to be American. For a while I wasn't. Like I'm like, Trump is president. I think you guys all remember that day Trump became president. Everyone was just like, we're all in high school. Everyone was just sad, crying, teachers upset. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys were at conservative schools. My dad is a Trump. So he was like, yeah, go Trump. But I'm like crying. And I'm just like, I'm so embarrassed to be an American. And like Mr. Rodgers just put in the chat, like, this is America with 3 Ks. And it's scary. And it reminds me so much of the purge. Looking at all of this, really, it correlates exactly with the purge. But Miss Toiya, I'm sorry, Miss Smith, please go ahead and please share your thoughts.
Miss Miss Robinson, Mr. Rodgers, y'all really knocked it out the park. I mean, Miss Robinson, you thought about it and brought it up in depths. I think I haven't even internally dived in yet. I feel like a lot of times when this foolery happens, I'm like, yeah, makes sense. And I don't give it a lot of energy. I don't give it a lot of attention. But like the fact of the matter is, this is definitely a symptom of the disease that is the white supremacy culture. I think Miss Robinson really said it best. Like that is how we treat white people. Like that is a perfect example of the differences of the way that we experience the world versus the way that they do. And I just don't think that there's any other way to chalk it up or put it or make it look nicer. Like I saw an article recently that said like some of them were on the no-fly list. And they were upset. Like, what? I can't fly. Like, I can't leave the country. I'm being treated like a terrorist. And I think that the reality is that even as charges are impending, and they're like sorting through what they're gonna say and do, or whatever with these people, it still isn't violent. It still isn't punitive. Like, I think if anything, it just feels like, well, we got to do something because the eyes of the nation are upon us. And I think that if even for one moment, I don't know, it's just, but ultimately it's not surprising to me, I guess. Like, overall, none of this was surprising. Seeing white people just being able to kind of like storm through when they chased the black guard, none of that was surprising to me. It's crazy that it's like, yeah, this is happening, and it's still happening. The fact that it went on for so long, I was definitely like, oh, y'all really don't care. Like, I mean, I thought I knew that y'all didn't care, but maybe I've been in New Orleans where they care about black people a little bit more too long, because what? They're still there. So I don't know. It's just all the more reason to keep fighting, to keep working. But it also makes me think like, I have no clue what I really feel like the answer is. Like, I don't know where I feel like this is what we should do. This is how we need to move forward. I don't know that I have that, like, that singularity of focus to say this is where we can go, but I definitely think it speaks a lot to where we are and how far we need to go.
Thank you, Miss Smith. And just to wrap everything up in this whole panel discussion on a lighter note, I know we are all graduating seniors. So I would like to know, what's next? What is next? Is it, I don't know. You guys are amazing. Like, you guys are amazing. You've been amazing student leaders. You're amazing activists in your communities. You guys are civically engaged, always know what's going on in politics, right? And I just want to know, what's next? What's next for you guys? And anyone can start.
I'll start. So right now and last year, I applied to a PhD program, various PhD programs around the nation. So please cross your fingers that someone will accept me. I'm also working on my senior thesis, where I'll be examining the correlation and relationship between housing segregation and environmental racism by focusing specifically on Gordon Plaza. And luckily, I've been selected to, I guess, present this research as well as some research on Black nationalism in the 19th century in a few conferences this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. And overall, just volunteering and getting involved in my community. I will say one thing, when it comes to being a college student, I wish that I had the mindset to expand a lot of my engagement and participation into organizations and communities outside of Dillard, and really build that relationship where I'm an active community member and not just a student leader.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go. So my plan's simple, just to go to law school. That's it.
Just to go to law school. All right.
I'm
That's
sorry.
it.
That's That's elitist.
Yes.
My plans are to go to law school, not just to go to that's like a form of that's a privilege thing. So that
And a
thank you.
little birdie told me you've been accepted.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe more than one. Can you let us know what's going on over there?
Yeah, so I got accepted into SMU in Dallas, and I got accepted into University of California in Berkeley, which is number 2 for social justice. So, you know, fingers crossed that they give me some money. We'll see. I really don't like California, but it's number 2 for social justice. So,
Not too much. Berkeley's the bomb. Not too much. Talking about some just going to law school. He's
my
going to
bad.
law school. Okay, great. Hopefully it's Berkeley. Fingers crossed. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I'm going where the money resides.
Where the money
The money
reside. Where the
reside.
money reside. All right, Miss Smith.
I am law school is the plan, but working on this campaign is immediately kind of like in the future. And if we win, I'm going to the Hill. So it's like that's kind of in my mind. I'm like I can't plan too far ahead because there's so many variables that are still kind of like working themselves out. But I work with this diversity, equity, and inclusion firm right now called Beloved Community. And in the summertime, we plan on expanding the work that we do to having a policy department. And so there's an opportunity there to kind of help build out what education policy would look like, our agenda for the state of Louisiana. So I'm kind of like still praying about it, still figuring out what's going to be the next move, but law school will certainly be somewhere a part of that process.
Wow, Miss Smith, I've always been inspired by you. You already know you've done literally. She can have 15 different jobs. Toya is just always doing something, and that's just amazing. So kudos to you. And I guess I'll go ahead and answer the question. Um, I was thinking about law school, but I took a different route. I plan on getting a master's in public health. So please cross your fingers for me. As you guys know, I am so passionate about reproductive justice. That's what I want to spend my life doing. I want to be a nonprofit executive, director, and hopefully, you'll see me on the Hill. So who knows? Who knows? But I want to thank you so much. And I know Dr. King is looking down at us and he's saying, thank you. My work did not go to waste. Like you guys, like we are the future. Yes, but we are here. We're the present. We're the present and the future. And we are the ones that are really, thank you. Y'all just look, y'all give me kudos and claps and stuff. But we're the present and we're the future. And it's just great to see how we are carrying out Dr. King's legacy. Like, Dr. King, we want you to know you did not die in vain. Like, we are here, we are in the present, and we are working to create a better future. So thank you so much, Mr. Robin, excuse me, Mr. Rodgers, Miss Smith, and Miss Robinson. Do you guys have any closing remarks for our dealer community?
Yeah, just Dr. King said if you can't run, walk, you can't walk, crawl. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you got to keep moving forward, and that goes for every aspect of life. No matter what it is, if you can't fly, don't try to fly. Just walk. If you can't walk, then just if you can't run, just walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Just keep moving forward, and that's all that really matters. Even if you just get up out the bed every day and just sit, it's better than what you did the day before. Just keep moving forward and live up to your own standards and stop comparing to other people because there's only one you, and every day you wake up and look in the mirror, you're the only person that can change your situation. So
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Look, there you go, Miss Smith. Go ahead.
Oh, I've been really feeling real quotey lately. And one of my favorite quotes ending the year last year, 2020, was nothing is so strong as gentleness, and nothing is as gentle as real strength. it's a lot going on around us. And I feel like, you know, people try to separate like what happened on the Hill from the reality of what happens day to day, but it's a true reflection of our day-to-day lives, of our daily interactions with people. Um, both like consciously and unconsciously, in our face and behind our backs. And I just feel like it's important now more than ever to be gentle and kind and compassionate with each other. Check on your friends. You're not stronger because you go through it alone.
That's a word. That's a word. And Miss Robinson, do you have any closing remarks?
Yes. And one of the common chants of the New Orleans People's Assembly: educate, agitate, organize. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved, not only on campus, but in the city of New Orleans. We had two prevalent grassroots organizers, include excuse me, you got to include our hosts who are involved in grassroots organizations and just in people's campaigns and things. Get involved, take that extra step, and please educate yourself. Please read. There's a lot of things that we see on social media, even with the news. Like I said, the language is changing, the terms were changing. To recognize the cycles, to understand our history, and to better understand ourselves and our struggle and the struggles of people who we may not even know, we have to read, we have to experience. We can't allow ourselves to be ignorant, especially as college students. And on top of that, we got to recognize our privilege as college students. So use that privilege to help other people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you for taking the time to talk to the Dillard community about activism and, what it means to be, basically a student leader on and off campus. So thank you so much. And like I said, Dr. King is proud. He's smiling at us right now. So we are doing justice. All right, everyone. You guys have an amazing day, and good luck with next semester. Officially starts what, tomorrow? All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.